Episode 100, Child Marriages of the Bible, jwa.org, Jewish Women's Archive, says, Rebekah's age at her marriage to Isaac. There are various midrashic traditions for Rebekah's age when she was married to Isaac. According to one tradition, she was born when Isaac was bound on the altar. Since Isaac was 26 years old at the time and 40 when he married Rebekah, she was thus 14 years old when she married. Another tradition gives her age as 3 years old, 3 years and 3 days when she left her father's house. What? JewishAnswers.org poses a question. How old were Isaac and Rebekah when Jacob and Esau were born? 63 and 23 years old? The answer. The verse, Genesis 25:26, explicitly records Isaac's age at the birth of his two sons to be 60 years old. Genesis 25:20, we learn that he married Rebekah at age 40. Therefore, as much as the rabbinic chronology indicates she was 3 at the time of marriage, she would have given birth, as suggested, at age 23. However, there are opinions that she was older at the time of her marriage to Isaac. JewishEncyclopedia.com. The rabbinical literature. The rabbis disagree as to the age of Rebekah at the time of her marriage to Isaac. The statement of Cedar Alam Rabbah that Abraham was informed of Rebekah's birth when he ascended to Mount Moriah for the Akedah is interpreted by some as meaning that Rebekah was born at that time, and that consequently she was only 3 years old at the time of her marriage. Other rabbis, however, conclude from calculations that she was 14 years old, and therefore she was born 11 years before the Akedah, both numbers being found in the different manuscripts of the Cedar Alam Rabbah. Rebekah was a child bride to a 40-year-old man. The age of Rebekah at the time of her marriage to Isaac was between the ages of 3 to 10 or 3 to 14. JewishAnswers.org. The age of Rachel. Question. How old was Rachel when Jacob first met her? When were they married? When did she die? The answer. Cedar Alam Rabbah says that Rachel was 22 when she married Jacob, and this seems to be the primary opinion, although I have seen one source suggest that Rachel was 5 when they met, making her 12 at the time of marriage. Rachel and Leah were twin sisters. Jacob married Leah and Rachel a week apart, although he worked 7 years for each of them. JewishEncyclopedia.com. In rabbinical literature, Rachel and Leah were twin sisters, 14 years old when Jacob came to their father's house. Consequently, they were 21 years old at the time of their marriage to Jacob. But if you do the math, if Rachel is 21 or 22 when she marries Jacob, but he worked for her for 14 years, so 21 minus 14 is 7 years old, 22 minus 14 is 8 years old. BibleStudy.org. Jacob was 84 years old. The Bible gives references to calculate the ages of the men of the Bible, but it fails to accurately give us the ages of the young girls these old men married. The ages of the young girls married in the Bible is intentionally obscure. Judaism.stackexchange.com poses more questions, but this time about Solomon. Could Solomon be a married father at the age of 11? While the Bible specifies the age of accession for most of the kings of Israel and Judah, Solomon's age is not given. In his dream at Gibeon, Solomon describes himself as a little boy, which may be a part of the reason Cedar Alam says he was 12 years old at ascension or the time he became king. Other answers. A minor male can have a wife through Yabum. In other words, Cedar Alam may be saying that Naamah was Solomon's wife through levirate marriage. It is odd that no one mentioned this if this was the case. The question is based on Talmud's statement that an underage boy cannot affect a marriage. This is correct, but it neglects the fact that a boy's father can affect a marriage on his behalf. The Mishnah. Solomon acceded to the throne in his father's lifetime, so David was certainly available to contract his marriage to Naamah when he was too young to marry her on his own. What? 1 Kings 11. Solomon had 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines. His first wife was Naamah, and she was believed to be around the age of 12 to 14 years old, so she was a kid too. NewEvent.org talks about Mary. A year after his wife's death, as the priests announced through Judea that they wished to find in the tribe of Judah a respectable man to espouse Mary, then 12 to 14 years of age. BibleKeeper.com places Joseph around 80 to 90 when he married Mary. Sadly, in doing our research, the ages of these child marriages are all over the place, when it should be so simple. JewishAnswers.org, conditions for legal marriage. The rabbis established the criteria necessary for legal marriage. This includes the man's acquiring, purchasing the woman with a formula that indicates that he is the purchaser, the sole active party in the marriage process, payment of the appropriate minimum amount of money, or a document with the appropriate formula or relations for the sake of marital acquisition. There must be 2 valid witnesses. The acquisition must be done with the woman's consent, and any document must be written specifically in her name. There must be 2 valid witnesses to the seclusion of the couple for marriage by relations. The man must state that it is for marriage through relations, and he must complete a relation. Although relations for the sake of marriage constitute legal marriage, it was considered inappropriate behavior, and the man was flogged for performing this type of marriage. Casual giving of goods using a marriage formula is not considered marriage, since it must be a part of a serious conversation with marriage and its purpose. The father may betroth his minor and maiden daughter to a Jewish man without her consent, but if she is subsequently divorced or widowed as a minor, she is considered an orphan in his lifetime, and he no longer has the right to marry her off. A minor girl cannot arrange her own marriage. Marriage can be accomplished by agency from both the husband's side and the wife's side. But it is considered a mitzvah for the man to see the woman prior to marriage, lest he finds something repulsive in her that the agent would not notice. The woman is not obligated to see the man before marriage because of the rabbinic understanding that she would prefer to be married even if the man was not appealing. A blessing should be recited after all of this. Wow. So where are the commandments for protecting these little girls from these old men? And where are the commandments for protecting our little boys? Deuteronomy 21. When thou goest forth to war against thine enemies, and the Lord thy God hath delivered them into thine hands, and thou hast taken them captive, and seest among the captives a beautiful woman, and hast a desire to have her, that thou wouldst have her to be thy wife, then thou shalt bring her home to thine house, and she shall shave her head, and pare her nails, and she shall put the raiment of her captivity from off of her, and shall remain in thine house, and bewail her father and her mother a full month. And after that thou shalt go in unto her, and be her husband, and she shall be thy wife. And it shall be, if thou have no delight in her, then thou shalt let her go whither she will, but thou shalt not sell her at all for money. Thou shalt not make merchandise of her, because thou hast humbled her. This is in the scripture, and this reflects exactly what the Talmud was set up to do in regards to child marriages, particularly little girls. So Israelite men could take the women of their enemies, if she was beautiful, and do whatever they wanted to do with them. And when they were done, if they didn't want her anymore, they can let her go. This sounds like abuse. This is abuse. 1 Corinthians 7:36. But if any man thinks that he behaveth himself uncommonly toward his virgin, if she pass the flower of her age, and need so require, let him do what he will. He sinneth not. Let them marry. Here, the passing of the flower of age means puberty. HealthDirect.gov says puberty in girls usually begins between the ages of 8 and 13 and lasts for several years. BibleHub.com gives Ellicott's commentary of Matthew 9:18. Mark calls her his little daughter, though both he and Luke say she was about 12 years of age, and that with strict propriety, according to the Jewish canons, which say A daughter from the day of her birth until she is 12 years complete is called a little one, and when she is 12 years of age and 1 day and upwards, she is called a young woman. So a girl past the age of 12 is a woman? This is sick. 1 Kings 1. Now David was old and stricken in years, and they covered him with clothes, but he got no heat. Wherefore his servant said unto him, Let there be sought for my lord the king a young virgin. Let her stand before the king, and let her cherish him. Let her lie in thy bosom, that my lord the king may get heat. What? So they sought for a fair damsel throughout all the coast of Israel, and found Abishag a Shumanite, and brought her to the king. And the damsel was very fair, and cherished the king, and ministered to him, but the king knew her not. Again, Abishag's age is not mentioned in the Bible, but she was young, around the age of 12. StudyLight.org gives Dr. Constable's biblical commentary for 1 Kings. 1 Kings 1. He states, It was customary in ancient times to warm an elderly person not only by covering him or her with blankets, but also by putting a healthy person in bed with him or her. Okay, but David could have been easily warmed up by one of his wives, not an innocent young girl. This is gross. And Solomon killed his brother for asking Abishag to marry him when David died. Truth Wars had to put a stop to this research of these child marriages because it literally made us sick to our stomach. However, we just listed a few examples of the child marriages throughout the Bible. You are welcome to do more research and find others. It is astonishing, though, that there were no age restrictions set in place to protect our young girls or young boys. And if there were restrictions, no one adhered to them. They did whatever they wanted because the Talmud gave them that permission. These men of the Bible did whatever they wanted with whomever they wanted, and preachers have explained away these high crimes for centuries after centuries. It is wrong, and there is no justification for allowing children to enter into marriage, no matter the time or the culture. It is wrong to take women of your enemies and do whatever you want to do with them. That is not right. How have we allowed these people to deceive us like this? The Christian church and their church fathers said that these marriages were okay. They explained them away every Sunday morning or whenever they have their services. Truth Wars is saying this is not okay, but this is wrong. And even though we may have agreed to this foolishness or with this foolishness in our ignorance, the scriptures are their history. As we seek truth, please seek truth with us. We don't claim to know everything. We just seek the creator of heaven and earth that does know everything. Let truth roar. Let truth reign. Let truth speak. And let truth set you and your entire family free. Truth roars. Truth reigns. Truth speaks. Truth sets me free. Oh, yes, it does. Please see our podcast disclaimer at truthwars.com. And thanks for watching, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel.